This week, we're visiting one of the few businesses in the U.S. or Canada specializing in fine art for outdoor settings. Good evening, and welcome to Red's Classic Theater. We're here at the Gardens of Art and the Big Rock Garden Nursery in Bellingham, Washington. Opened in 1981, the Gardens of Art have found a special niche in outdoor decor, and we'll show you more throughout the program. Our movie this week is the 1938 Sam Goldwyn production, The Adventures of Marco Polo. It stars Gary Cooper and Basil Rathbone. The cost of making the picture was high for its day, $1.4 million, and Sam Goldwyn never did make back his investment. Also, some of the publicity efforts backfired when co-star Sigrid Guri, billed by Goldwyn as the Siren of the Fjords, was found to actually be a native of Brooklyn, New York. Now here's Act 1 of The Adventures of Marco Polo. Here at the Gardens of Art in Bellingham with me, two very famous artists and sculptors, David Marshall and Ann Bauer. David, why is your artwork displayed here in Bellingham?
It's the only place in the whole of the Northwest where we can exhibit sculpture out of doors. And it's a beautiful garden and really relates well to our work.
Brings up a good question there. Ann, why don't we have something like this in British Columbia?
I have no idea. We have lots of space. We have lots of beautiful gardens. But I guess George is the first one to think of this. Maybe in the future, if more people visit from Vancouver, then we'll have more gardens of art.
This could inspire them, right?
Oh, hopefully.
Fine. And now I'm going to urge you to come down and have a look at this here in Bellingham, Washington, the Gardens of Art. And now let's take a break, and we'll be back in a moment. For Canadian viewers attracted to the fine sculptors here at the Gardens of Art, you might be interested in knowing that fine art is allowed into Canada duty-free. But of course you have to pay the GST. And the nursery and garden staff are prepared to give you expert advice on landscaping or on choosing one of the many different varieties of Japanese maple trees in stock. The Gardens of Art are open Monday through Saturday from 9 to 5:30, Sunday from 11 to 5. And now let's return to The Adventures of Marco Polo, starring Gary Cooper. Hope you're enjoying The Adventures of Marco Polo, featuring Gary Cooper on Red's Classic Theater. You know, Basil Rathbone had an unusual career in motion pictures, being popular both as a villain and a hero. On the screen from the early 1920s, Rathbone's gaunt appearance and intelligence made him an ideal arch-enemy for many of Hollywood's leading men. He first crossed swords with Errol Flynn in Captain Blood. He next dueled Flynn with swords and witty insults in The Adventures of Robin Hood, and then played another villainous role opposite Tyrone Power in The Mark of Zorro. He also made a convincing hero as the great detective Sherlock Holmes. Over a 7-year span, he played the role of Holmes in 14 movies. The first was The Hounds of the Baskervilles in 1939, and the last was Dressed to Kill in 1946. Sadly, his last movie was a low-budget horror movie called Hillbillies in a Haunted House, made in 1967. Basil Rathbone died later that year. And now let's return to our motion picture, The Adventures of Marco Polo, starring Gary Cooper and Basil Rathbone. Here at the Gardens of Art in Bellingham, it's time to look at our mailbag. And thank you for the letters you continue to send in to our program. Here's some recent requests. Howard Sturrock from Victoria would like to see Footlight Parade starring James Cagney and Dick Powell. Susan Key from Vancouver requested White Fang starring Strongheart the dog. And Nancy Ho from Bellingham requested the Gene Krupa story starring Sal Mineo and James Darren. And if there's a motion picture you'd like to see or the suggestion of a location, write to Red Robinson, KVUS TV in Vancouver. That's Red Robinson, KVUS TV in Vancouver. And next week on our show, Marilyn Monroe and Don Murray star in the 1956 comedy drama Bus Stop. And 2 weeks from tonight, join us for Dead End with an outstanding cast including Sylvia Sidney, Humphrey Bogart, Joel McCrea, and Claire Trevor. And now back to our motion picture, The Adventures of Marco Polo. Hope you're enjoying The Adventures of Marco Polo, starring Gary Cooper on Red's Classic Theater. Cooper's role as the world adventurer was totally against type, and the public of the day found it hard to accept. That same year, he was miscast in another motion picture. The movie was Bluebeard's Eighth Wife, in which Cooper played a wealthy European. As Cooper had grown up in a well-to-do family, he was more than comfortable playing a man of means. But his audience was uneasy with the role. They preferred him in the simple, humble circumstances associated with the Old West. Cooper obliged later in 1938 with The Cowboy and the Lady, co-starring Merle Oberon and Walter Brennan. And the opinion of the public this time was right on. Back in his Stetson and chaps, Cooper was cast properly. And now let's return to Gary Cooper in The Adventures of Marco Polo. From Gardens of Art in Bellingham, it's time for our movie trivia quiz. In 1959, Gary Cooper starred in a motion picture where he played the role of a sea captain who was accused of abandoning his ship. What was the name of the movie, and who was Cooper's co-star? We'll be back with the answer after these messages. Here's the answer to our movie trivia quiz. The motion picture in which Gary Cooper played a sea captain was The Wreck of the Mary Dear. His co-star was a very young Charlton Heston, who went on to become a major star that same year for his role in The Ten Commandments. And now let's return to Gary Cooper in The Adventures of Marco Polo. Well, that wraps up another edition of Red's Classic Theater. Hope you enjoyed Gary Cooper in The Adventures of Marco Polo. Be sure to join us next Sunday night for another classic movie, probably Marilyn Monroe's best screen performance in the motion picture Bus Stop, co-starring Don Murray. In the meantime, if there's a motion picture you'd like to see or the suggestion of a location, write to me, Red Robinson, in care of KVUS-TV in Vancouver. And we'd like to thank George Drake and the Gardens of Art for hosting our program this week. Please come and visit them. They're open 7 days a week. And we'll see you next Sunday night for Bus Stop starring Marilyn Monroe. Until then, rock on, and good night, everybody.